Welcome to Hiring That Works Masterclass. I'd like to start off by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land. I am on the land of the Wonorong people here in Geelong, and I pay my respect to their elders past, present, and emerging. So my name's Beth. I am a HR practitioner, organizational psychologist, and just love to figure out why people do what they do. And I run various different programs across TSA and help with compliance as well as culture and capability. And today we're talking about one of the most important decisions that you'll make in business, which is who am I bringing in and what are they going to do to my business and my culture? So it all starts with hiring. The first thing we're going to talk through this week is knowing who you need. Often we go straight from we have loads of work to let's put a job advert and do you know what, that's the best applicant of a bad bunch and we just need to get somebody in immediately. So today is really just about taking a pause and going, well, what is the ideal candidate? And we might not be able to find them right now, but what ideally do we need to be looking for? Next week, we'll then talk about how are we attracting the right talent. Even just changing a job advert can totally change who actually turns up in that shortlisting pile just by the way you word things. So similar to when you're marketing your business, you are marketing a job. So we'll start looking at what are the job ads, where are we putting them, but then also how are you always on as a leader, trying to spot talent, trying to figure out who do you want for your next hire and the one after that. And then week 3, how do you interview like a pro? Like, what are the questions that you're asking? What responses are you looking for? How do you make sure that you're not bringing your own bias into those decision making when you're conducting your interviews? And then week 4 is how on balance are you making the right call? How are you eyes wide open, determining who is right for your business and knowing exactly how they're going to impact not only your existing team if you have them, but also how they're going to impact your client. So that's week 4. So we have an hour a week together. It always starts with me talking for 10 minutes and sharing some content with you. And then we move across to some practical work, whether that be you going and doing a specific task, or whether it be us having an open conversation as a group and sharing ideas and responses together. So as I talk through these, please feel free to pop things in the chat as we go that we'll talk about at the end of the presentation. So week 1, know who you need. So often we fall into traps as business owners, operators. These are the traps we fall into. First off, leaving it, and then hiring in a panic. And we're literally like, they can fog a mirror, they have a pulse, I just need some arms and legs, and we just hire in a rush. The second trap we fall into is essentially getting the same people as ourselves, because we have that mindset of if I just had 2 of me, then I would halve my workload. So we go looking for like people, and we end up therefore with people that have the same strengths as us, but then equally by design, they have the same development areas and gaps as us, which can be a real challenge when it comes to you being able to build an all-rounded, strength-based business. The third trap we often fall into as business owners and operators is not being really clear on the role. So knowing that there's a lot of work, knowing that there's a lot of stuff to do, but not really knowing what are they actually going to do? What is the list of tasks that they're going to undertake, which therefore leads to a slow start, frustration on your part, but also frustration on the new hire's part as well, because they don't have clarity. The fourth trap we fall into is we just go with our instinct. We go with our gut feel. And that's not to say that we shouldn't trust our instincts, but when we hire a mate, when we overlook those red flags, when we don't go through a proper process to really set out what they expect and from us and what we expect of them, our gut feel will only go so far. And sometimes we'll get it right, but often we'll get it wrong and we'll hire the wrong person. And then last but not least, there's no role criteria during the interview process. So when you don't have a clear set of criteria that you're assessing these different applicants against, it does therefore default to your gut feel. It therefore defaults to who you like, who you vibed with. And that's not to say that vibing isn't important. It is extremely important. But if it's just about vibe and not about they can actually do the job, they can actually meet the role expectations, the vibe only lasts so long and you end up in trouble. So this is where hiring can go wrong. And it's not that you're doing it intentionally. It's not that any of us are doing it intentionally. It's just things that we need to look out for. And today is all about how do we not have these 5 things happen. So by the end of the hour, you'll be in a position to not fall into any of those 5 traps. So the first thing that you need to do when you're considering what makes a great hire is not just looking at the tasks. So yes, look at the tasks, look at what they're going to own, what they're going to be responsible for, and do that in detail. Don't just do that in a high level. Actually know out exactly what it is that you're going to hold them accountable for as part of their role description. There are some role description examples on the TSA app for you to use for week 1. The clarity is really important. I've seen so many job descriptions that the tasks are really vague. So therefore, again, you're leaving it open to interpretation as to what they think they should be doing versus what you think they should be doing. The second thing to be looking for is their attitudes. What's their mindset? You know, are they, I live to work? Are they, I work to live? Are they, I am a team player and help people out? Are they, I'm just going to stick it to the man and I'm just all about employee rights and you're going to end up being the nicest boss and all of a sudden they're taking advantage and it's not working between the two of you. What is their mindset? What is their mindset towards your business? Do they care about you? Do they care about the team? Do they care about your clients? That's just as important. Everyone's heard of a brilliant jerk. Everybody has worked with a brilliant jerk. It's not great for your culture. They might have the technical expertise, but if they don't have the right behaviors, you're going to come unstuck when you start to grow your team. And they need to be skilled. So you need to look at the technical transferable skills that they have. Have they actually done the work before that you need them to do? Have they got the lived experience as well as the certs and the various different certificates they need to be able to do the job? So you need to be looking on balance at all 3 of those. One is not more important than the other. If you had a really highly skilled individual that could get through those tasks really quickly, but treated people like shit, then it's not going to be great for you, your team, or your customers. Equally, if you have somebody that has the right mindset and is a great team player and everybody really likes them and they're great with clients, but they're so slow, their jobs are running over, they're never hitting their times or budgets, that's not great for business either. So it's really about looking at all of those 3 things on balance to make sure that you've got the right expectation of your hire. The next thing that you will look at is where are you at? So if you have a team, you would look at yourself and all of your team collectively. If it's just yourself and it's your first hire, you'd be looking at your own individual strengths and gaps. So you'd be going, what am I great at? What is my team great at? And what are we not so great at? And essentially, you're trying to get somebody that can close that gap between the two, so that whenever you're hiring, you're bringing in new skills, you're bringing in new perspective. It's therefore enabling you to grow your business and to be able to cover off on things that you couldn't do previously or with your existing team. So when you're hiring for the role, don't just think about your current business and your current team. Also think about the growth trajectory of your business. What are you going to need in 6 months, a year, 18 months time? And sometimes what you're going to need in 2+ years time is different to what you're going to need today. So it's not to suggest that everyone you hire is going to stay with you for over 2 years, but you need to be hiring for more than, you need to ideally be hiring for 18 months at least, where you go, it's not just what I need right now, it's what I need for the next 18 months. Once you're really clear on where your strengths and gaps lie and where the strengths and gaps of your team lie, you're in a position to start thinking in more detail about it. So here's an example of a scenario where you've got a really busy team and you just need another team member. So there's too much work and there's not enough people. Here's an example of there's the owner, you're great on the tools and you're fast and experienced, but you hate admin. There's a first year apprentice that is keen, but needs hand-holding, needs a lot of direction. There's a site supervisor that's a confident communicator and really great with clients, but not great at admin, doesn't really follow company process or system. And then you've got a part-time office support that's very admin focused and deals with invoicing and phones. So if you had that team, if that makeup of the team is you, the strengths you would have is high speed on the tools, good client relationships and day-to-day quoting and invoicing, and enthusiastic apprentice that is willing to learn the ropes. But the gaps you have in that team is out of all 4 of those team members, no one is detail orientated or following up. Therefore, safety paperwork might not be where it needs to be. Therefore, it's all left to the owner to find the errors, even though they hate admin. And it's all left to the owner to mentor and coach and support the apprentice, because potentially the site supervisor is not following the system. And the apprentice might not progress as fast as they could, just due to the lack of structure and attention. So instead of just hiring another qualified Sparky in this example, because the business is flat out, you would actually be thinking about what are the systems or processes that are needed to support that apprentice. And do we actually need someone that used to be higher level and be more of an ops manager that's wanting to go back on the tools, or someone that is on the tools but is extremely structured and methodical in their approach? That's what you'd be looking for at interview. That's what you'd be putting in your job advert. You'd be saying, looking for a qualified Sparky that is great with process, that is great with detail. So it's a really high level example of where you need to just sit with what team do you have today? What skills do they have? What gaps do they have? And therefore, what specifically are you hiring in? What is it that you need? Here's another example. So this scenario is ready, solo trade person ready to hire the first person. So strong on the tools, high standards, great with clients, is running literally everything themselves. No admin support yet, so is end-to-end job management is sitting with the owner, and there's no formal system or process in place. So the strengths is the clients are really happy, which is why this person's winning more work. The work is quality and reliable, jobs are getting done, and they're because it's their business, they're really responsive to clients. The gaps is can't grow the business because they're only one person and they don't have enough hours in the day. Admin is done at night and weekends, so not great in terms of social life or family life. There's no structure to be able to hand out work or delegate because everything's in the owner's head. Nothing's really documented down because they've not needed to document anything because they're running their own business, and they're feeling stretched. So can't have sick days, can't have time off, just constantly feeling a low level stress. Here's where instead of hiring another you're actually sitting with that and going, okay, do I enjoy the quoting and scheduling and planning of the materials, or do I need that skill set in the person that I hire? Do I want to step off the tools and deal less with the clients and focus more on growing the business? And therefore I need to get somebody in that's good, that's willing to do that for me. Is there someone that's used to taking direction from someone else rather than a strong independent tradie that's not necessarily going to do it your way and is going to want to do it their way? Are they able to be teachable? Is it that actually you need a second or third year apprentice that you can grow as opposed to a fully qualified person that's exactly the same as you but might not be running the business the way you want it to be run? So yes, you can get to twice as many jobs because that person is fully qualified. But if that person's fully qualified and not doing things the way you want them to do it, is that short-term pain relief, but long-term going to cause you issues down the line? And is that person going to help you build your culture and build your business? Or is that person just going to transact and do the work that you need to get done, but long term is not necessarily going to give back to your business? So two very different scenarios. One is a team, one is an individual person. But it's something for you to think about before you even start to write the job advert. Again, we often go straight to, I need someone, I'm going to write a job advert and see who I can get. And then based on who I can get, slim pickings, right, this is the best of a bad bunch, as opposed to being really deliberate about what it is that you need. So it's now time to put it into practice. For some of you, you might not be ready to hire yet. For some of you, you might have a live role that you are looking to hire for. First ask is to map out what are the tasks, skills, and mindset needed for this job. So often we go straight to these other tasks that are needed, but have we looked at that task list and gone, well, if those are the tasks that are needed, what specific skills are required and what mindset do I need? And then to assess, well, where are the strengths and gaps in my existing team? So that might be you yourself running the business, or there might be 2 to 200 of you in the business. What are you good at? What are the strengths and what are you not so good at? The gaps that exist within your business. And what does that tell you in terms of what it is that you need to do to close that gap? And then next week when we catch up, we'll start on job adverts, job posting, where are you putting it, who are you getting? And who you get will often be related to what you put out. So someone wrote a job advert 3 weeks ago, and I was like, I went online to look at it and I was like, oh, I'm not applying for that. And then we rewrote it and now he's got loads of applicants. So often it's just the way you frame it more than anything. So we'll work on that next week. All right, thanks team.